supplies you're going to need include a new pair of pointe shoes, a long piece of elastic. They give this to you when you get your new pair of pointe shoes. A ruler, scissors, a large eye sewing needle. Of course you could use normal needles, but large eyes are really easy to thread. And some thread. I use Dual Duty Heavy in the color like almond pink, and the number is 1060, and I find it at Joann's fabric store. So let's get started. Okay, you're going to begin by cutting your long piece of elastic. I like to start by cutting it about 7 inches. My ruler goes only to 6, but cut it about 7, and I've already done that here. As you can see, it's about 7 inches. And measure this on your foot, like try on the pointe shoe. And I like to put the elastic, see this seam right here? I like to put the elastic on either side of the seam. Now, not too close to the seam because that might hurt your Achilles tendon, but move it far out a little bit. If you can see what that is, it's a little bit farther out than the seam. That's the seam. You can move it like there. That's where I like to sew it. Just test out the 7-inch piece on your foot. You may need to cut a little bit off the end, which is what I'm going to do. Just snip it with your scissors. And I've already tried this on, so yes. And as you can see, I've already sewed one of my shoes, and this is what it looks from the inside. And it does not show on the outside, which is what I love. And it is super sturdy, and you can't see it, so that's that shoe. So let's begin with the next shoe. So determine from your other shoe where you want to sew it. Like I said, I'm going to do it a little bit far away from the seam. And I'm going to try to do it the same on both shoes, so there's just they're just similar. Let's see here. You're going to sew one side on at a time, which makes sense. So if you like where you've put this, the elastic, you're only going to put it along the flap. If you look at your shoes, there's this little flap on the inside of your shoe. On some shoes it's bigger, on some shoes it's smaller, but on my Grishkos, it is actually quite large. And that's what I like about Grishkos, is that you can sew along the flap very easily. And that's how you're going to get the look that it's not even there, but it's still sewn. So this little flap right here, on the shoe, on the inside, is what you're going to be sewing on. So, now that you have that in mind, thread your needle. So get your thread out. And a lot of needles, it's very hard to thread. Just make sure you have a clean end on your thread. I'm just going to cut mine off, even though it doesn't matter because I do like large eye sewing needles. So, take your needle and thread the top. Large eye sewing needles can be found at Joann's, by the way. So my needle is threaded, and one precaution is be very careful with needles. So you're going to determine that place again where you liked your elastic, and start sewing one end at a time. So this is the end I want mine at. This is the seam, and it's about 1/2 inch to 1 inch away. I am sewing along the flap, so bring your needle through the flap and up through the elastic. The first one is always the hardest. But you see, so I'm going through the flap and through the elastic, and push it up and bring it through. So that's your first thing. And for any sewers out there, this is called a whip stitch. And thank you to my teacher for teaching me this. This is the best process I've used. So do that again, through the flap and up through the elastic. And pull. Pull very hard. Continue this process, so just up through the flap and up through the elastic. and I'm just going to keep doing this, and I might fast forward this just so you guys can have a quicker video. Make sure not to grab any of the other fabric while you're sewing. Just make sure to grab always the flap so that you don't see it from the outside. So now I'm just going back a second time. I finished doing a whole row. As you can see, I have a buildup of thread right here, and I didn't do as much on this side, so I'm going to focus more on this side now. Okay, so I finished sewing this on, and I want to knot it now, right? But I don't want to knot it the normal way because sometimes that comes out. So I'll show you the way I like to knot my shoes. So again, pick up from the flap and go to the side and pick up from the elastic. Now, pull through just a bit. Don't pull through all the way. Keep pulling. Okay, now, do you see, I have barely any thread left on this shoe, but, do you see how this is creating a little loop there? So you're going to put your needle through that loop, pull the thread through, and then pull the thread. Now, it's knotted. So that's the kind of knot I like to do. So now that you've knotted it, you are going to cut it. Cut as close to the knot as you'd like to. Just don't cut the knot. Now I'm going to knot the other side where the thread is picking up. So this side is attached. This thread right here on the side is attached to the spool. So I'm just going to cut maybe a foot of the thread off. And then I'm going to take the thread. So there are two strings of thread always on when you're sewing this method. The one that you started the spool with, and then the one that you end with. So thread your needle. And now I'm going to do another knot, and you'll get to see what the knot looks like again. So pull through the flap. I'm actually going to do the knot this time on this side. So pull through the flap, through the elastic, and keep pulling. Now, you'll see this loop starting to form again. This right here. So put your needle through the loop, so this is your loop, and put your needle through one of the sides of the loop, and pull, and now just pull, and you've got your knot. Now cut this thread now, and you are done with this side of this shoe. Now let's go on to the other side to connect it. So just take the strand and then halfway through your loop, so at the top, halfway through, just crease it right there. There you go. So if you want to see that again, take your loop right here, cross it over, crease it right there. So you should have this like line up here and these two here. And this is what it should end up looking like that. So You are going to use the same process I have just shown you. Again, sewing about 1/2 inch to 1 inch away from this seam, right there, using the same process I just showed you, and I will be back when it is done. So I am now done with this shoe. As you can see, both sides are sewn on. You cannot see the thread coming through the shoe because we sewed on the flap. So just cut open your ribbon and make it into 4 equal sections. You'll need scissors, thread, needle, and then point shoes with elastic on them. And repeat the same process that I showed you for elastic, but using ribbon. And I'm going to sew mine right behind this seam on the middle side of the shoe. So right around that area. I'll come back when it's done.
Tonight I can see a star shine, and its splendor fills up the sky. It's the same that appeared and the wise men revered when hope was born this night.